Hello everyone, how are you all today? I would like to thank you all once again for coming back to the channel and listening to another one of my ramblings for another 20 minutes. This time we are pitting yet another Mon Calamar design up against each other in a one-on-one versus video. Please note that everything that is stated in this video is something that is based purely upon my interpretation of the Star Wars lore, which doesn't mean it's 100% true. Mine is but one way to read and interpret it. Now, with all that said, let's begin with the video. First, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button along with the bell button so that you can become part of the new Zerka Legion and never miss out on a new video. Now, let's go over these two respective ships' histories. The MC80b cruiser came out in 5 ABY, meaning 5 years after the Battle of Yavin, and it just missed out on taking part in the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY. The MC80b was made in an effort to move away from the classic MC80 ships, which were by now starting to show their age. However, with the very limited resources of the Rebel Alliance, they resorted to keeping a lot of the aspects from the MC80 models, and from that, the MC80b was born. It had a much improved shield generator over the previous MC80 models like the Home 1, Liberty and Wingless models respectively. On top of that, it also came with its weapons placed in much more optimal positions for combating Imperial Star Destroyers and other ships of the Empire. In many ways, the MC80b was the ship that kind of sealed off the age of the MC80 line before the New Republic began using newer, stronger and more modern ships. In other words, the MC80b closed the MC80 era. The MC90 Star Cruiser was the first true warship made by the Mon Calamari from the ground up with only one purpose: warfare. Unlike its predecessors, like the MC80 Home 1 and MC80 Liberty type of ships, who were originally built as either civilian luxury cruise ships and or deep space exploration research vessels, this ship was a true warship through and through. Although the Mon Calamari actually did have ships that were very capable in fighting warships, none of them could really match the Imperial II class Star Destroyer, something that in the end wasn't gonna cut it. Although 4 years earlier the MC80b cruiser had come out, which was much sturdier and more heavily armed, armored and shielded, even it had severe trouble with handling the full firepower of an Imperial II class Star Destroyer. So, a new ship was needed, a ship that had much less focus on defense and much more focus on firepower that could single-handedly bring down an Imperial class II Star Destroyer. Through that, the MC90 was born. The MC90 was one of the new ships that opened up the New Republic to the new ships that were much stronger than the previous models. Like the MC80b closed the old ship lines, the MC90 opened up the new ones. Alright, so that was a little bit of history, and now we'll take a look at their general things and aspects. The MC80b in specifications wasn't too different from the previous MC80 models of the MC80 line. However, it did have significant upgrades where the Liberty, Home 1 and Wingless types of the MC80 line lacked the power to compare to Imperial II class Star Destroyers. The MC80b could manage to rival it, if only just being short of it. Having come out in 5 ABY as I mentioned above, it just missed out on the Battle of Endor. However, it did go on to serve the New Republic faithfully for many years. The most notable of the MC80 classes was the first ship of the line that was also named Mon Ramonda, a ship that Han Solo was given the command of during the hunt for Warlord Zinj. On average, the ship was 1200 meters in length, but around this time standardization hadn't quite set in yet for the Mon Calamari, and so every ship was still unique to a point. Along with the 1200 meters in length, the ship also spun 572 meters in width and 150 meters in height or depth. So, not a small ship, but still only 75% the size of an Imperial class Star Destroyer. But, in essence, the ship was pretty much standard size for most New Republic and Rebel Alliance ships, whenever we're talking about the cruiser class sizes at least. One thing to note is that what is typical for the Mon Calamari ships is the kind of bubbles or blisters that they have. It adds something extra in my mind. The MC80b had 5,156 crew members, 246 of which were gunners, but could be run with a skeletal crew of a minimum 1,230 personnel. Added to that, It had the cargo carrying capacity of 15,000 tons and 1.5 years worth of consumables. On top of that, it could carry 4 fighter squadrons. Later in the timeline, it was expanded to 8 squadrons. And lastly, it carried a Class 1 hyperdrive, but surprisingly were all the way up to a Class 6 for the backup. So far to my knowledge, that was rather unheard of, but a pleasant surprise to me nonetheless. The MC90 came out of the Mon Calamari shipyards in 9 ABY. The ultimate pinnacle of Mon Calamari engineering at the time, this ship was a bristling weapons platform that put all the previous MC ships to shame, even the MC80b. This ship was 1,255 meters long, and like the MC80 Home 1 type, it carried a Class 1 hyperdrive and a Class 9 for backup. This ship didn't cause the same headache for the New Republic and formerly Rebel Alliance as the MC80 models did, in that this ship was far more modular and streamlined, where the design was pretty much standardized, however to great concern and reluctance for the Mon Calamari, as they wanted to make their things unique every time. However, this was also a reason for why costs of the MC90 were kept at a lower price than it would have been otherwise, as many of its parts didn't have to be specifically made for that specific single ship. This ship, unlike the previous Mon Calamari models, were actually designed with human crews as well as other species crews in mind. However reluctant the Mon Calamari were to go along with the standardization mentioned above. It had a crew of 5,860, where 605 of them were gunners. However, a minimum crew of 1,350 could still operate the ship, but not to its full capacity. It also carried 1,700 soldiers along with 72 starfighters of various classes. Along with that, it could carry 30,000 tons of cargo, had 2 years worth of consumables before having to dock to restock. This ship was used in the following 3 eras: the New Republic era, New Jedi Order era, and Legacy era. But in the end, you could actually blame the MC90 along with the Republic-class Star Destroyer for being the ships that finally gave the New Republic the kick in the rear to really start up their new class fleet modernization program, which in the end did culminate with the Nebula-class Star Destroyer. MC90 versus Nebula-class Star Destroyer is another video I made. Go check it out. I'll leave a card for it here as well as the end of the video. The MC90 clearly takes the cake here. It can carry much more troops, more fighters, and in general stay in action for longer before having to dock to refuel. So, in the category of general things and aspects, the MC90 clearly has the win. And now onto their speed and maneuvering. The MC80b had 8 engine thrusters, being split in 2 parts with 4 thrusters on each side of a long and beautiful tail fin. 2 bigger and 2 smaller thrusters on each side. The 2 bigger ones I assume are for speed, and the smaller ones are for maneuvering. And because there is no clear number stated for maximum acceleration and atmospheric speed, we will assume the same for the MC80b as is the case with the Liberty, meaning that it travels with 2,750 G per maximum acceleration and 950 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. This ship, being part of the MC80 line of ships, could also be seen as being just as, if not slightly more maneuverable, due to it being of an all-new design, however still carrying the typical characteristics of the other MC80 ships. However, in general, it was fast, agile, and could quickly get to where it was needed, and even quickly get out again should its hyperdrive be damaged. The MC80 was Mon Calamari engineering through and through, and though it was more powerful than other MC classes of the time, at the time I would say even the single most powerful warship that the New Republic had, then it also needed that power. The vast majority of the power went to its weapons, however some of it inevitably had to go to its propulsion system. And here we are quite literally at an impasse. However, we can make guesses, though let it be said already now that these words are not 100% true nor certain. But due to the knowledge that we have about the earlier Mon Calamari ships around the same size, I think it is safe to say that the MC90 could travel with 950 km per hour in atmosphere and about 2,700 G per maximum acceleration. But again, let it be said that this is only due to the knowledge that we currently have of the previous MC models of ships. especially the MC80 line, like the Home 1, Liberty, and Wingless, to name a few. If you're uncertain of my statements, however, go watch one of my 2 videos where the Home 1 is included, and then come back to this one. I'll also drop a card for it. However, this is the best bet that we currently have, so that's what we'll stick to. The maneuverability of the MC90 could also compare to that of the MC80 models, which were in no way bad by any means. So when it actually comes to maneuvering, I'd argue that because the MC80b has a better backup hyperdrive, it squeezes out the most narrow win I've ever given to any ship in this entire time that I've done these versus videos. So, with that, as I said, the narrowest win ever given by me in a versus video goes to the MC80b for speed and maneuvering. Now it is time to look at these 2 ships in the category of offensive and defensive capabilities. The MC80b, being the pinnacle of the MC80 line of ships, was the heaviest in terms of armor, shielding, weapons, and targeting systems that the soon-to-be New Republic had at the time. Unlike the previous MC80 models, this one had its weapons placed in the most optimal positions available, so even though it was armed with the same amount of weapons as the MC80 Liberty, it was still a much better ship in terms of where its weapons were positioned, as well as its firing arc, range, and sheer magnitude it could dish out. It was armed with 20 heavy ion batteries, 48 heavy turbolaser batteries, and 6 tractor beam projectors. And I think it is safe to assume that the MC80b also had upgraded targeting systems over the previous MC80 models. Most of the MC80 models were of much older design, some even from the time of the Clone Wars. These weapons on this thing also had a pretty good range. The turbolaser batteries had an effective range of 75 kilometers in space and 150 kilometers in atmosphere, and the ion cannon batteries had an effective range of 50 kilometers and twice as long in atmosphere also. The same thing can be assumed for the MC90, however. Another thing about these weapons of the MC80b was the fact that they were positioned in ways to cover the ship from all sides, 12 pointing fore, starboard, port, and aft. The ion cannons covered 4 on the port, starboard, and aft sides, and 8 forward facing. So every angle of the ship was covered in weapons. As mentioned earlier, the MC90 was a ship built for war. It was built for taking on whatever the Imperials had to throw at the now New Republic, and so it needed a serious arsenal of weapons to retaliate. The MC90 did not disappoint. It was equipped with 75 turbolaser batteries and 30 ion cannon batteries, along with 6 proton torpedo launchers that had 16 missiles in each tube. The first ship of Hero Mon Calamari design to have missiles as part of the standard armament, by the way, and 8 tractor beam projectors. Also, it was typical for Mon Calamari ships to have incredibly powerful shielding, layer upon layer. Nothing should be able to get through, although surprisingly with the MC90 the New Republic had put more focus on offense than defense compared to the previous models of the MC80 class, especially in regards to the MC80b, which was estimated to have almost twice the shielding capacity of the MC90. But again, the MC90 would also make up for that with a still very powerful and capable shielding technology, as well as vastly outgunning the MC80b in every respect. This was the first ship that the New Republic had that even directly outgunned the Imperial-class Star Destroyers. Also, it did have fewer ion cannon batteries than the Imperial Star Destroyers, and the Imperial Star Destroyers barely had shields that were noteworthy of a mention. People claimed that they were strong, but in all reality, in compared to the Mon Calamari shields, they simply paled. And so, the 75 turbolaser batteries really came into play here, which by the way, had exactly the same range as those of the MC80b. Finally, the New Republic had a ship that in a one-on-one could go toe-to-toe, defeat and destroy an Imperial-class Star Destroyer. Destroy and destroyer. Ironic, right? So, I think it is safe to say that this one is in the bag. While the MC80b definitely is a force to be reckoned with, it simply doesn't stack up to the MC90. While the MC80b does have much greater shield capacity than the MC90, I feel that the MC90's stronger hull as well as still very relevant shielding power, plus its overabundance of weapons in comparison to the MC80b, settles the bet. So in terms of offensive and defensive capabilities, the MC90 will win this category. And now for the verdict. In this battle there really isn't very much that can be said and done. I think it is pretty obvious which one wins this one. While the MC80b will no doubt put up a serious fight against the MC90, the vastly superior firepower of the MC90 would edge out over the shields of the MC80b. The MC80b shielding, however, would last long enough for the MC90 to have its own taken down, and the hull would be fairly well damaged too. However, it would be able to get away on its own power as well as leaving the battle after probably making the jump to hyperspace to get back into friendly space. As mentioned above, the MC90 was meant to deal with the heaviest that the Empire could throw at the New Republic, even the Imperial II class Star Destroyers, and I have a feeling that it would also be capable of taking on Tector class Star Destroyer, an Imperial II class without a hangar but improved armor, shielding and firepower, maybe even an Allegiance class, which is just a Tector class on steroids. However, the MC80b was also meant as a closing off of the MC80 line to start out an all-new agenda, and so the New Republic also did just that. The MC80b was an amazing ship, but in the end it couldn't stack up to the newer generation, aka the MC90, which unlike the MC80b was a purposely built warship. The MC80b was kind of a stepping stone. It was an experiment of a sort. Now, this matchup, just like the previous one, where Yanni, my girlfriend, lent her beautiful voice, this video wasn't meant to slander any ship of any sort. However, often on the interwebs, I've seen people who don't actually know what they're speaking of, especially in regards to this one, with ship versus ship combat in general. So, I felt that I had to clear this one out for you all. Now, I hope you all enjoyed, and again, if you want to see more and stay updated on future versus videos from my side, I would suggest you hit the subscribe button, click the bell, and become part of the Zerka Legion. Now, thank you as always so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.